No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of the 2023 AEW Grand Slam edition of Dynamite. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. This was a newsworthy episode of Dynamite. A lot to discuss, a lot to break down and analyze. So let's get right to it. We kicked off Dynamite with a title for title match. The New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Champion Claudio, or excuse me, I already screwed up. Eddie Kingston is the New Japan Strong Champion against the Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio. There, I got it right. It's tough because there's so many titles. It's easy to get confused. I mean, come on now. Now, both guys came out there and they were showed coming to the ring from the locker room. Big fight feel to this match. This was a long time coming. These two have a long history. And they went at it. They had a score to settle. They traded shots early on. They brawled on the outside of the ring. Claudio gave Eddie a back suplex on the ramp. The ramp went all the way from the stage to the ring. And I like how the wrestlers utilize the ramp when it goes all the way down to the ring. That's a throwback to WCW. WCW used to have those ramps that went all the way to the ring. I think Impact Wrestling did for a while as well. Anyways, we had a commercial break, and then Kingston started to make a comeback, multiple suplexes, but could not put Claudio away. They started trading shots again. Eddie hit several spinning back fists, then a Northern Lights bomb, but Claudio kicked out. Crowd was chanting for Eddie. They were very much behind him in his home turf, New York City. Claudio started to make a comeback, but then Eddie powerbombed Claudio and got the 1-2-3 victory to become the new Ring of Honor champion. I enjoyed the match. I think this was the right finish. Eddie Kingston was unlikely to lose that New Japan title, number one. And number two, it's in New York. And to AEW's credit, they tend to let the hometown guy win in his hometown. If it's WWE, they almost always lose in their hometown. But here, Eddie Kingston got the win, and you could feel the emotion. Eddie's a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve, and good for him. I'm happy for Eddie Kingston, and I enjoyed the match. Nice start to the show. And then we had a segment with the Kingdom. They were in the hospital with Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong hospitalized, and we had Adam Cole show up, and he said, "I'll take it from here, nurse," which was a callback to WWE back in 1998 when Steve Austin said, "I'll take it from here, nurse," before beating the hell out of Vince McMahon in the hospital. We had several WWE references during this show. More on that in a few moments. Adam Cole had to leave because of MJF's match, and Strong was not happy whatsoever about this. We also had a promo from Christian Cage talking about how maybe Darby Allin can get one more opportunity at the TNT title, but Sting will not be allowed at ringside. We had Chris Jericho versus Sammy Guevara. Guevara had a live rap entrance. He was wearing tights that were similar to what Chris Jericho wore at WrestleMania 19. And that wasn't the only WrestleMania 19 reference. Stay tuned for that in just a minute. They shook hands to symbolize friendship and sportsmanship. They traded some chops. Guevara went for the go to hell, but Jericho countered with a code breaker. Sammy rolled to the apron, but then Jericho suplexed Sammy off the apron. And after the commercial break, Sammy started to make a comeback. Multiple efforts to try and put away Jericho. A Spanish fly. That did not work. And then he came off the top with a cutter. Jericho kicked out again. And then Jericho countered the go to hell with the Walls of Jericho submission. Sammy managed to get out of that. And then he hit an avalanche cutter with Jericho on top this time. Jericho still kicked out. Sammy went for a lion salt, but Jericho got his knees up. And then Jericho hit a lion salt of his own. Guevara kicked out. Guevara recovered. Finally was able to hit the go to hell. And then he went up top. Instead of going for the cover, he went up top, went for a shooting star press, but Jericho countered with a code breaker and wasn't exactly connected, but they had Jericho pick up the win here over Guevara. Clean, no shenanigans, no outside interference. Jericho won fair and square. And then after the match, Jericho went for a handshake. Sammy hugged Jericho, and in a recreation of WrestleMania 19, if you remember, Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho hugged after their match. Jericho gave Michaels a low blow. He kicked him low. And that's exactly what Sammy Guevara did here. He betrayed his longtime friend since the beginning of AEW, Chris Jericho. Don Callis came down, patted Guevara on the back. So it does appear that Sammy Guevara is now part of the Don Callis family. Very good match here with these guys. I really enjoyed it, and I like the angle. Guevara did lose, but he's with Don Callis now, and it's about time we actually have this faction build up. Like, for months now, Callis has been talking about the family, and I think the only guy he's aligned with is Takeshita. Now he's got Sammy Guevara. And then backstage, there was a little confrontation between Guevara and Daniel Garcia, and they used to be teammates. And where does Garcia stand in all this? We had MJF arrive at the building. Footage from earlier in the day. He vowed to choke Joe out in front of his people in New York. We had the International Championship match. We had Jon Moxley versus Rey Fenix. They started brawling on the ramp. And again, they utilized the ramp, which I thought was pretty cool. Fenix did a running dive over the cameraman onto Moxley. And the match actually had not officially started. They got back in the ring and the bell rang to officially start the match. Moxley hit a stomp on Fenix, but Fenix kicked out. They were on the outside again. Moxley gave Fenix a DDT on the floor. They got back in the ring. Fenix made a comeback with a cutter, but Moxley kicked out. Fenix went up top with a frog splash. Once again, Moxley kicked out. They were on the outside again, and Moxley was hanging on the barricade, and Fenix came off the top to the outside onto Moxley with a flying leg drop, and he got some airtime on that one for sure. Crazy move. They got back in the ring again. Fenix still could not put away Moxley. He hit a springboard double stomp. And then they were back on the ramp. Moxley hit a stomp on the ramp, crowd reacted to this by singing or humming Seth Rollins' theme song. I think that's a first where we've heard fans humming Rollins' song on AEW television. And then they got back in the ring. Fenix hit a pile driver, went for the cover, and we had a very awkward moment here because the referee stopped his count. Moxley apparently was supposed to kick out, but he did not. And there was a few moments of confusion, and then Fenix hit another pile driver. This time the referee counted 1, 2, 3. Rey Fenix is your new international champion. Obviously not what I was expecting, considering that Moxley just won the title and he's Jon Moxley. So what happened here? The early report is that Moxley possibly suffered a concussion. Fortunately, it was not like a neck injury. He got dropped on his head. It appears he suffered a concussion. He was able to walk out of the ring without any help, which is a very good sign. I mean, that would definitely mean he did not suffer some kind of serious neck injury or anything like that. But yeah, he at the very least got the wind knocked out of him, and they decided to call an audible, and Rey Fenix won the title. It happens. I mean, very unfortunate, but it appears that Moxley is going to be okay. Very scary moment, though. You know, these guys, they do a lot of crazy moves, and they risk a serious injury every time they're out there. And I feel like there have been several close calls over the years. And one of these days, if they don't tone it down a little bit, somebody could get seriously hurt. Rey Fenix is your international champion. And match was pretty good, but, you know, the ending was definitely awkward. WWE Fan 2000 Geo sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, hey, Aaron, been watching since the No DQ Q&A videos. Keep up the great work. Again, I appreciate it, and I hope you checked out the Q&A I did Tuesday night. It was a live 1-hour Q&A. If you guys want to see more of those, leave a comment and let me know. I need to know. If you guys want more, I will deliver more, but I need to know there's the demand for it. Again, I appreciate it, and thank you for that super chat, and thank you for the long-term viewership. We had a Samoa Joe backstage promo and basically just saying that he was going to take MJF's championship. Toni Storm has a brand new entrance, new music, which was like vintage Hollywood music from the 1930s. She had a black and white entrance. There was a title that said Portrait of a Star, a graphic that appeared on the screen. This is her new gimmick. Soraya slapped Toni, yelled at her, and Toni just smiled. She went after Saraya. Then you had interference from Ruby Soho. She got on the apron. That allowed Saraya to gain the upper hand. Toni then went under the ring, grabbed some shoes. She hit Ruby Soho with the shoes and then hit Saraya with the shoe while the referee was distracted. Saraya did kick out. Toni was upset. She was screaming. After the commercial break, Toni exposed the turnbuckle, and then she grabbed some spray paint. Ruby took it away, and then Ruby passed the spray paint to Saraya. Saraya used it on Toni while the referee was distracted, and then Saraya hit the nightcap DDT. Toni kicked out of that, and then Toni made a comeback, hit the Storm Zero, but Saraya kicked out of that. Toni then put Saraya in the corner, went for the hip attack into the exposed turnbuckle, but Saraya moved, and then Saraya hit another one of her DDTs off the ropes, got the 1-2-3 victory. Still women's champion, Saraya. Match was very gimmicky, outside interference, all that stuff, but it was entertaining for what it was. No surprise here, Saraya still the champion. It wasn't the usual 9:15 to 9:30 spot, but at least it was a high-profile match here, and we'll see what happens next with these guys, or gals, I should say. We had our main event of the evening for the AEW World Championship. Samoa Joe challenging the champ MJF. Before the match, we had a little Bret Hart video parody that aired. Back in 1995, there was that video of Bret Hart walking down a hallway, heading to the ring for a match, and he's stopped by a young fan who yells out his name. Bret goes over to the fan, puts his sunglasses on the fan, and then the fan says, "Go get him, champ." They did a spoof of this with MJF and a young fan. MJF gave the fan his scarf, but then whispered something to the fan. And as MJF left, the fan looked up at his dad and asked if he was adopted. This was a fun little parody here. I could see people criticizing this though, because we had several WWE spoofs on this show. We had the hospital reference, "I'll take it from here, nurse." We had this segment with Bret Hart, and then we had the WrestleMania 19 callback. I could see, the people that always hate on AEW saying, "Oh, here they go, spoofing WWE." The thing is, unless you're really familiar with those segments, you wouldn't even think anything of it. So it's a nice callback. They're all nice callbacks to long-term fans, but it's not like it's going to confuse anybody. They're subtle little teases to the past. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's not going to affect your enjoyment of the segments. Anyways, I was entertained by it. I thought it was great. And MJF totally being the babyface here with the New York Mets inspired shirt that he was wearing. Adam Cole was not there, though. Apparently, Adam Cole received an urgent call from Roderick Strong, had to go back to the hospital. Joe got the early advantage and worked over the neck of MJF, and Joe was taunting the fans. Joe did the crotch chop at one point. He was just being a great heel. He continued to work over MJF, ripped off the shirt, and that was his mistake because that pissed off MJF. That lit a fire under his ass. MJF started to build up some momentum. He busted out the kangaroo kick. I love that that's one of MJF's signature moves now. Gets a huge pop every time. I love it. He shakes the ropes like the Ultimate Warrior. And Joe managed to recover from this. Joe gave MJF a Death Valley driver on the apron and then just started laughing like a madman. He gave MJF a Uranagi through a table on the outside. Then Joe exposed the floor, gave MJF a pile driver on the floor. And Matthew brought this up earlier, how maybe AEW should not have allowed them to do a pile driver spot right after Jon Moxley apparently got a concussion. But they did do the pile driver nonetheless. And then Joe got MJF back in the ring. MJF managed to kick out. And then MJF made another comeback. He hit a sit-down power bomb. Joe kicked out of it. They were going back and forth, and then MJF gave Joe a low blow after pulling the referee or pushing the referee away so the referee would not see it. MJF grabbed the Dynamite diamond ring, but Joe gave MJF a low blow after the referee took the ring from MJF, and the referee was distracted. Joe with the low blow. Then Joe hit MJF with the muscle buster, but MJF kicked out. Joe applied the coquina clutch, and it looked like it was the end for MJF. He was on the verge of passing out. Adam Cole showed up, and hopefully Adam Cole did not hurt himself coming down that ramp, because it looked like he started limping once he jumped off of the ramp onto the floor. Cole was cheering on MJF, and that motivated MJF enough to escape the coquina clutch. Then, as they continued fighting, the referee got knocked out of the ring inadvertently. MJF, though, took advantage of this, grabbed some tape, and he choked out Samoa Joe with the tape. Referee got back in the ring. MJF hid the tape and scored the victory because Joe was out of it. He passed out. MJF did what he said he was going to do. He choked out Samoa Joe and retained his championship. And after the match, Cole made sure to grab the tape so the referee wouldn't see it. Great friend is Adam Cole. And after the match was over, MJF and Cole hugged, and then we had another show of sportsmanship. Samoa Joe offered a handshake to MJF. MJF accepted it, and Joe left the ring. MJF still your AEW World Champion. Great match here. I really enjoyed it. Pay-per-view quality match, and Joe put over MJF big time, shook his hand, endorsing MJF as the world champion. And they teased that, MJF almost at a year now as champion, but his neck, is he breaking down? How much longer can he go as champion? Great stuff here. They're finally embracing MJF as a babyface, and he does such a great job at it. I mean, MJF really can do whatever needs to be done. Guy is a total pro, and he should be making big money for years to come. So all in all, overall, I really enjoyed Dynamite. It did feel like a mini pay-per-view. You did have a few unfortunate moments, including what happened with Jon Moxley. So I can't go with an A+ or even an A, but I give it an A-. I think it was overall a great Dynamite. One of, if not the best Dynamite of the year up to this point. I do think it delivered. There was a lot of hype going in for this show, and it was a great showing from AEW. Very enjoyable Dynamite, and I am intrigued about where they go from here. No big surprise debut or anything. No Edge/Adam Copeland, but I really wasn't expecting him to show up. But I know some people were speculating, is Adam Copeland going to be there? Is some other free agent going to show up? And quite frankly, you don't really need to do that. Like, I thought this show was fine as it was without any surprise debuts. Like, they can't rely on that. They cannot rely on people showing up to try and pop a rating. I think what they did was appropriate. You have this special edition of Dynamite in New York, and you just do some big marquee matches, and that's what they did. Not a ton of storyline advancement, although we did get the Sammy Guevara turn on Jericho, and you did tease that something might happen with Roderick Strong, like that's still going. But, it was just to settle some scores. For instance, Eddie Kingston and Claudio, it looks like that feud is over. Eddie got the win, and they're cool now. So I think that the show accomplished what it needed to. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate the viewership and support. And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the latest. There's a lot going on, a lot of news coming out of Dynamite. So NoDQ.com will keep you updated. Rampage spoilers. That's the rest of Grand Slam on Friday, but it's taped tonight. You can check out the spoilers, the news regarding Moxley, all that stuff at NoDQ.com. Enjoy the rest of your week. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.